I was doing a little electrical repair on one of my brother's bikes, and he thought it'd be helpful if he brought over his head torch, and he brought it over and they clicked the button and nothing happened. It's working, kind of semi-working now, but he was clicking away and nothing was happening. And even now, it's missing most of the presses, right? So I asked him if he'd used it out in the rain, and he said, yeah, the last time he used it had been really wet, so I'm guessing water's getting. Let's explore the inside. So first of all, I'm going to take the batteries out. Let's see what batteries he's got in it. The ones that came with it. 2,200 milliamp hour, 3.7 volt. Let's just assume they're 1 amp hour. They have the little gold PCB in the end. It's very tarnished looking, actually. I'll give that a clean. But whether there's actually any circuitry under that, who knows? Maybe we should open one up. So I'll take the back off the light and we'll zoom down a wee bit just to get closer in. So there appear to be 4 screws in the back. Oh, they're quite tight actually. Do you have a better screwdriver for this? It's got better grip. Yes, I do. Oh, that's better. These are quite tough. They must be into plastic maybe, or metal. So it's a common thing with these little tactile switches they tend to use in these. You can hear it sort of clicking. And they have little metal discs that bend. All right, interesting approach here. All right, there's a little circuit board and everything inside. Interesting. With the green and white wire going on to what I'm guessing is switch contacts. But we'll find out when I take this circuit board out. But the switches, tactile switches, if it's the one I'm thinking of. See if we can pick the rubber button out. If it's the type I'm thinking of, it is. It's actually a good one. It's just a standard generic type. These little switches are very prone to the contacts tarnishing inside them if they get wet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can find a suitable one, because it's quite odd. It's actually designed to mount sideways in the circuit board, unless they've just chopped the leads on another one. Right, okay, I'm going to get the soldering iron on. I'm going to get one of these switches because I should have them in stock, and we'll fix his light. One moment, please. And we're back. I just automatic pilot. I just started repairing it without starting the camera again. Naughty. Right, let's get some flux in this and get the original solder off. So I'm going to actually put some flux on the desoldering braid. If you use desoldering braid and you'd find it's not picking up much solder, just wipe a bit of extra flux in it and you will find it makes a huge difference. The whole point of desoldering braid is that it's a very, it's a wick that basically sucks the solder into it. So if I put this on there now, the solder has gone. This time, should I take this switch out? Tell you what, let's do what I normally do. It's a 2-pin component. I shall grab both sides of the switch and then I shall alternate between poles, these pads, until it pops out. It just popped out. Rightio, and remove that solder with freshly fluxed wick. Putting my finger in the back of the circuit board where it's extremely hot. Excellent. Good job, Clav. It sometimes helps to add a touch of new solder as well, because the old solder can be quite sort of dry. Or just add more flux. Flux is the way ahead. So the switch I've got is this little standard 4-pin one. These flat pins actually just curl across and down the other side, so I'm just going to snap a couple of them off. Or even just cut them off. I shall try bending them first. Ooh, they're quite easy to snap that way, so I'm actually going to have to be very careful bending these ones out, because these are the ones that are going through the circuit board. Okay. So now I'm going to put this on the back of the circuit board, feed it in, and then solder it, and the heat will instantly transfer through the remnants of those leads onto my fingers on the other side. It's a bit wobbly, so I'm going to just put a dash of solder on first and then line it up and then reflow afterwards. So just basically the equivalent of a welder just tacking something. So now that I've tacked that, I'm going to reflow it and just wiggle that switch until it feels fairly flat. That feels fine. Okay, now I'm going to solder the other pin I'm going to put fresh solder on the pad, all the pads that are getting wires, which includes that one over there. And then I'm going to reflow that original solder joint, now that it's being held in place by the last one that I flowed. This has loads of wire positions on it. There must be other functions. Oh, I know what that is. It's because the wires aren't necessarily designed to go straight onto these pins. Now I'm going to crop those leads, and then I'm going to solder the wires back on. This could be quite footery. This is where having huge hands doesn't really help an awful lot. Can I squish? Oh, I can squish the wire through. That sounds like a great idea. Let's squish the wire through and make it easy for ourselves. So I'm going to re-tin these leads. What that means is just basically flowing a bit of extra solder onto the end of the wires, and that will make it easier to make them onto the pads. If I was going overboard, I could add a tiny touch of flux onto the pads, but I'm not going to. It's not needed. So now, the colours were white. I made a note of the colours before. I also took a picture. It's always good to take a picture. So this is the switch wire going back down. This is the common, I guess, negative, because it's going to the switch and it's going to the black feed down to the LEDs. So I shall flow that wire on there. And then this red is presumably, although it's never guaranteed in China land, is probably the positive. So I shall put it on here. And that should theoretically be it, if this switch does actually fit in properly. Let's find out. So I shall retract this wire back in by pulling it gently. There's no strain relief in this. And I shall sit that circuit board. I see there's a little recess for the switch. It's not super generous. I think I may have to angle that in. Is it going to go in? This is where any size difference would be a tricky thing. Yes, that is most fumblesome. Also helped by the fact these wires are just not really in the same angle as they were before. I guess in the factory they just get used to shoving it in. Oh, that's me. I've just shoved it in. Excellent. I could get a job in their factory. I'm not sure they'd pay enough. You know fast enough. You know do 1,000 an hour. Okay. Have you ever noticed in the Chinese factory videos, because there's quite a lot of them, they all have little finger cots on the end of their fingers to prevent the wear and tear on their fingers from the work they're doing. So that's just the button needing, the little rubber cap just needs satin. Hopefully it will sit in. I may poke that. Oh no, it's actually satin itself. That's nice. Okay. And now, is there any particular way around this goes? I don't think there is. It does look like they're slightly different. Oh, they are. There is a way. Okay. Then I shall put it in that way. Maybe I should actually put batteries in first and try it. We'll do that after I put a couple of screws in, just to hold everything in place. So that's one of the two screws. These are such common LED lights. They usually have absolutely ludicrously misleading hours associated, well, not hours, intensities and light hours runtime associated with them. Right, tell you what, let's stick the batteries in and see if it goes boom. We'll need to stick one in because that's all it takes to. So click, 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 click. Oh, how useful it does all the flashing modes. How irritating. But that's it fixed. Now I'm going to test these batteries. I do see a metal strip going up the side, so they probably do have some protection circuitry, but you know what? I'm going to drain one of these flat and then I'm going to recharge it. And we'll see if it is 2,200 milliamp hour, but I bet it's not. Okie dokie. Right, well, I'll leave the result of that test in the description down below. And I'm going to put the last couple of screws in, and then we can see how long this lasts. So that's it. Ralph's LED flashlight is now fixed. And as I say, if I was to open this one now, let's open it. Let's take a wee look inside. Where are my side cutters? And we'll just gently break these little rivets, the little plastic melted rivets. Heat staked is the word I was looking for. What's inside? A little plunger presses down a metal disc. The metal disc should pop out. It's corroded inside. I'll tell you what, just to show you how corroded it is inside, I shall just pause momentarily and I'll take a picture of that to show you the damage. So taking a closer look at this, the outer contacts are okay, but the middle one, I'm wondering if water has just bridged between inside there, and it's basically caused a sort of electrolytic corrosion. And perhaps the one that's, it's depending on the polarity, the one that's really copped it, or maybe it's just the fact it's lying down low and the water has just been wicking. I can see a little bit of the green verdigris at the side here, so I'm guessing it was just a little layer of moisture in the bottom of here that had that effect. But that's a common weakness of these switches, but they're fairly easy to replace. If you get stuck and it's a weird switch, you can basically crop these tops off and you can fudge a fix in, but it's only a short measure. You should really just order a replacement switch, but you can kind of scrub that and get it going for a while again, but it won't really last usually when it's gone a bit cruddy like that. I can see a slight hint of the corrosion in there, so it has possibly been wicking, you know, it's this bridge between that. But there we go, interesting. But Ralphie's light is now fixed and the battery is now on test. So the result of the battery capacity test will be in the description down below.